Hi everybody, I'm Sheri with the Horse Barn Management Show and also brought to you by Pro Barn Management. And it has been a few months. I'm terrible at this, doing these podcasts. Sometimes it gets so busy with everything going on at our farm, and I'm writing a new book, a devotional for people, horse lovers, and that has been super fun. But anyways, I thought I was going to spend some time here, answer some questions, and start doing this again because so many people reach out to me. They have questions about building, about running a barn, horse boarding stable, or they contact me with problems they're having. And, we're all in this together, and we all have gone through it, especially those of us that have been doing it about 20 years. And so here I am, and so I'm excited. It's the middle of January in Wisconsin. We've had negative temperatures. It's been really cold. We had two big snowstorms last week. One about 4 days in between, and then we got hit with the cold weather. So we really got hammered. And so I'm going to talk about that today and kind of what we do with cold weather and the horses, and answer some questions. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, if you don't know who I am, my husband David and I have a farm in Wisconsin, and we built a barn that holds 27 horses, and then we also built outdoor paddocks for horses that would be rough boarded in 2005. And we started our own business, and it was a lot harder than I ever dreamed, and it was very stressful. I had little kids at the time, and I knew the horse part, but I didn't have any clue what I was getting into with the people part. And it really just caught me for a loop. Way back then, the internet was going, of course, but there wasn't, I don't even believe there was Facebook back then. You just didn't know who to reach out to, and I felt inadequate. I didn't want to go to other barns and say, hey, I'm having all these problems. How can you help me? What do you guys do? It was just really a very lonely time. And as social media took off, there's things about social media I don't like, but there's a lot of things about it that I do. And one of them is that you can connect with other people in whatever your hobby is or occupation, even medical stuff, and you can bounce things off each other. And I realized that there was a lot of people out there struggling. I decided to write a book, and it was really about our mistakes and trials, and the things we did right, the things we did wrong in building a boarding facility from the ground up, from nothing but empty farmland. And when I did that, my life kind of changed. People started connecting with me, and I realized that there really was a need out there to help other people. And we were somehow, through all our trials and errors, we were able to make it a successful business, and to really learn how to do it in a very efficient way and actually survive financially. So here I am all these years later. I write books, to help people, to encourage them, all horse related. And then I started these podcasts, and I'm still a little uncomfortable being on this side of the camera, but it's okay. I'll get used to it. And so here I am. So I'm recording one today, and I hope it answers some of your questions. So the subject for today is how do you deal with extreme weather? And we are, like I said, mid-January. It has been really cold, and I get emails about, people, barn owners who are boarding horses. They've chosen to leave the horses in because it's below zero temperatures, and the boarders are upset. They want their horses out, or vice versa. They put the horses out. The boarders are upset because they want their horses in. The outdoor boarded horses are struggling, when it gets that cold. Is every horse a good I guess a good candidate for outdoor board in a very cold climate? And it really can be kind of a struggle if you don't kind of hone in on what kind of boarding facility you want and what you offer to your clients, to your boarders. So we're going to talk that through today, and then I'm going to answer a few questions that I've had on YouTube, and we'll go from there. The first thing, just so some of you who don't know me, maybe don't know some of the basics of our facility. Right now we've downsized. We have about 32 horses, but we used to have over 40 something. I'm glad we've downsized, but we have some horses that are on outdoor board, and then we have 27 stalls, and those are all horses that go out during the day and they come in the afternoon and they stay in overnight. Well, we had such a big storm last week that literally when my husband and I got up to go out to the barn, he had to dig his way into both barns to get in to feed the horses. We brought all the horses in the night before, even the outdoor boarded horses, but we have access to extra stalls, so we can do that. I know some places will put horses in the arena, they'll put horses here and there. And then of course, a lot of horses stay out and they do just fine. With shelter, they can get away from the wind, and they have plenty of hay. They do just fine, but that's how we did it. So we brought them in, and the drifts were so big because we have such open farmland, and it's like the wind just whistled around the buildings, and it just formed these massive drifts that we had to get in to get the door open, dig it, get the door in, and feed the horses. So anyways, needless to say, the horses were in for a couple of days because it took him a long time to kind of plow all that. It was a lot of snow. Horses were in. When the horses are in at our barn, I always email our clients and just say, hey, they're in for this reason. And I do that because that way I don't have them texting me all day, or the horse is in. And this way they know and they don't have to worry and they can plan accordingly. The other thing that I do, because I have learned that if you don't do this, you will have people get stuck in your driveway if your drifts are really deep. So the way our farm layout is, we always get a ton of snow in the front area. And if I don't send an email out saying, hey, barn is closed until 12 noon, my husband has to plow the front area, please do not come out. If I don't say that, someone will come out around 9 in the morning. And if they come in a car, they're going to get stuck. They're not going to make it. For years, my husband would go out there and pull people out of the snow. And I'll be honest with you, we don't do that anymore. Every fall, when winter is coming, I send out an email, and I just tell people, we're all adults here. I just say, hey, if you choose to come out, you come out at your own risk. And if you get stuck, you'll have to find someone else to pull you out, because he doesn't have time. He's got a huge operation here. He's busy. And one time, years and years ago, we had 3 people get stuck in one day. And finally, I because they should have stayed home, but they didn't. And I get it. They want to see their horse. I totally get it. I have no problem with that. But you can wait until we get it plowed. And they didn't. So I'm pretty strict about that now. And everyone here who has been here for years, they respect it. They understand how we do things. They know we have a big operation. And as soon as David can get things plowed, they can come out, and I'll keep the communication really open with my clients and just let them know, hey, it's cleared. Come on out. You're good to go. It's okay to tell them that. It's okay to say stay home for the morning. It's okay to put parameters around that and say this is how we're going to do it. The horses are in today. There was no way we'd be able to get the horses out to the paddocks with all the snow we had. My husband today still needs to clear the paths to get the horses out because it's so deep. There's just no way I can walk through all that with 27 horses. Neither one of us can. He can't even get out there to feed. It's so deep. So sometimes people just need to be patient and understand that this is part of living in an area where you get snow. And the thing about it, the truth is, the horses are going to be just fine. They're in the stalls, they settle into a routine, we feed them, they have plenty of hay, and people come out and turn them out in the arena, do whatever they're going to do. But the horses actually, they do fine. They sometimes do better than the owners. So it's okay. And so that's how we do that. The other part of it is cold temps. I get asked all the time from boarders and from clients from other barns, or other barn owners will reach out to me and say, what degrees do you not turn the horses out? And you know what? Honestly, the truth is you can do it however you want to. I have a cutoff. Usually, if it's going to be 5 degrees or less, in most cases, unless it's extremely calm and no wind, we don't turn the horses out. And so if you've got 0 degrees, our horses do not go out. We don't have shelter out there for them to get out of the wind if the wind picks up. And I know a lot of people that turn horses out at 5 degrees, and that is fine. As a horse owner, a boarder, if you're going to board at a facility, then you need to ask those questions. And some horses, well, actually probably most horses do really good, but we have a lot of thoroughbreds here that are thin-skinned, and some of them get cold. We have a couple Arabs here that are thin-skinned, and so if you have that wind, it'll go right through them. So we choose when it's like this morning, I think we woke up and it was -5 and wind chill 20 below. The horses were not going out. Are there horses out in other places around your area? Of course there are. And you know what? They'll do just fine. I don't want to walk the horses out when it's that cold. I mean, I barely can handle it. My face is frozen and it's a lot of work. So we don't put the horses out. I do allow our boarders to put their own horses out if they want to for a few hours, and they can turn them out in the paddock and let them run around, do whatever if they want. But they are responsible for bringing them back in. So if I call or email and say the horses are in because of the weather, if they want to put their horse out for a couple hours, I have no problem with that. But they have to bring them in. But when it's been this cold, no one puts their horses out. They just turn them out in the arena. The other thing is, when I write those emails, I tell people they do it at their own risk, and also that they cannot put hay out there. I just said, don't put hay out there. If your horse is going to be turned out for a couple hours, we're not going to go haul hay out there, because I end up wasting a lot of hay that way. And it just is a much easier, cleaner way to do it. But it's been so cold here that no one has turned their horses out, but they know they have the opportunity to do it if they want. Now, I think tomorrow is Thursday, and we're supposed to get a high of 11. Woohoo! So our horses should be going out tomorrow. And it's good because they've been in a few days. They've been very quiet. They sleep a lot. They actually do quite better than what people expect, because they're into a routine and they just kind of hunker down. So that's my thoughts on cold weather. Honestly, at your barn, if you're going to run a boarding stable, you can do it however you want. But what I encourage you to do above anything is to just be really honest with new boarders coming in and say, this is how I do it. I would have it written up on a sheet, along with all your other your barn rules and how you do things, so that there's really, what you don't want to happen is for them to come to your barn and be frustrated because they didn't know this or they didn't know that. The easiest way to do things is just put it right out there. If they still want to come, then they like the way you do it. Then those are the people that are going to stay for a long time. And what I always say, and you'll probably hear me say this in most videos or podcasts, is that the less turnover you have in clients and horses, the easier your job's going to become. The horses settle in, they settle into their herds, they bond with everything, they understand the consistency and how things are done at the barn. They become very quiet then, and it's just less stress on everybody. If you have a lot of turnover because people are upset with how you're doing things, then, especially when it comes to cold temps, then it's very frustrating and you're going to get burnt out really quick. And the idea is for you not to get burnt out and not to get upset, and to run it the way you want to run it. A couple issues I've had over the years with this kind of situation. we did have a situation years ago, probably like 5 years ago. We had like an incredibly cold winter. I think it was almost, it may have been breaking records. I think we had like 30 days below zero. Craziness. And we hit a spot where with the wind chills, it was like 45, negative 45, almost negative 50 degrees. It was just nuts. We had a mother and a daughter. She had bought her she had bought her daughter a horse, and it was really too much horse for the little girl. It was just too much horse. But the problem is this horse needed to be let out during the day because he was just so wound up, and they'd gotten kind of frightened of the horse, and the horses had been in for about a week because we'd had negative temps that whole time. And she couldn't handle it anymore because she'd come out and the horse was just wound up. And she was so upset and frustrated. She wanted me to put the horse out no matter what, outside, like in minus 50, 45, 50 degrees. And I told her, no, I'm not doing that. First of all, the horse would be totally upset if it's outside by itself, not another horse around. Second of all, I'm not going to do that when it's minus 45 degrees. And I offer a service where if they can't make it out, I will walk their horses for them. I will turn the horses in the arena and let them out. But there is a fee for that. That is not included in the regular board rate. And she didn't want to pay for that. She felt that should be included. So this was, they were new horse owners, kind of a learning curve for her as far as how barns operate. And, you know, I guess in the end, it really wasn't a good fit for us anymore or her. She was very frustrated, kind of at sometimes became a little maybe angry. So they moved the horse and they ended up selling the horse down the road. But that is a situation that the reason I talk about this stuff is because they were the nicest people, but they got themselves in, first of all, they bought the wrong type of horse. It was too much horse for their daughter, their young daughter. And second of all, they couldn't handle the horse when the horse was inside. And what was good enough at first during the summertime when the weather was beautiful turned out it wasn't good enough in the winter when they didn't want to come out in the cold weather and they needed that horse walked. So these are things you need to talk about. You need to be very clear with your clients if they're coming, or if a new person's coming for a tour, just be honest with them, because the more you tell them how you do things, the more specific you are. Then if they come to your barn, then you know it's probably going to be a really good fit. And the best thing, the biggest compliment you could have is when someone stays for years. We've had people here stay for easily 10, 12 years. And but they know how we do things, and they know it's seasonal. You're going to have cold weather. You're going to have muddy season. You're going to have summertime when it's extremely hot. You're going to go through all the 4 seasons, and some winters are worse than others. And it's just part of it. And you know what? It always comes out good on the end. The horses do just fine. They make it through and life goes on. And, you know, praise God for that. It just always comes out. But you really have to hone in and be honest with your clients and say, hey, this is how we do it. You might have someone leave, and that's okay. It's okay to let someone leave and let them go to a barn that better does things how they want, and then you find the right clients for you. So on that note, as far as outdoor boarded horses and extremely cold weather, we have the luxury, because we have an old dairy barn that we converted, and we're able to bring those horses inside. So when it's been really cold or we have a massive storm coming in for winter, we can bring the horses inside. If you don't have that, that's fine. Just, you know, you have to decide, are you going to offer blanketing? Do you want your clients to make sure they have a blanket on hand if we get this really cold weather? Because there's nothing worse than walking out to the horses to feed them outside, and it's 25 below, and you see one of your horses shivering. You see a horse shiver. And then, you know, what do? You're going to have to call them. They probably don't have a blanket on hand. So you want to be very careful and kind of plan ahead and say, okay, how do I want to do outdoor board as far as temperatures, especially with the extreme cold, because when it is really cold, it is not fun feeding horses out there. But it's something to really think about. And also, it'll make a difference with outdoor board as far as maybe the breeds and age, because, you know, the younger horses tend to, you know, they're hardier. They tend to do well in the cold temps. But the older horses, boy, they get cold and they struggle, just like when I age. I'm cold. You know what I mean? We all get older and things just don't seem to work as well. And the same with the horses. So, you know, really think about that as far as senior horses and how you want to make sure that they're warm enough for winter if they're not able to eat as well as the young horses, and how you're going to feed them during those situations, especially if you have negative temps. Okay. If you have any questions on cold weather and all that fun stuff, please ask me in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. I'll either answer them down below or I'll answer them in the next podcast. And also, if you have other questions, you can reach me on Facebook at Sheri Grunska, or Pro Barn Management, or probarnmanagement.com is my website. And the links will all be below, and also YouTube. Okay, the other thing I want to talk about, which is huge, is ice. We don't have ice right now because we just had a huge storm, but I think starting Monday, the temps are supposed to get above 32 and almost to 40 degrees. And that means that everywhere that David plowed will probably melt and then freeze up overnight, and we're going to have an ice skating rink. The paddocks will probably be okay because there's so much snow in them, but getting the horses out to the paddocks will be hazardous unless we do something with that. And this is his least favorite job, and I don't blame him. It's cold, but what we do is we have a big farm tractor and a manure spreader, and he fills it up with hot manure. And then he takes it and he makes a path, a huge path, and that hot manure is smoking. It melts into the ice, and when it cools down several hours later, it's frozen into the ice. So our driveway actually becomes a big, huge manure path. Doesn't look the prettiest, but I'll tell you what, it keeps the horses safe. It's like walking on gravel or sandpaper. You know, the last thing I want is for them to slip and break a leg. I don't want them hurt. I don't want them to splay. So if you're wondering what to do with ice, or if you have a low area where it tends to pool and then you have an ice problem, you know, we've done it for 20 years where we'll take manure and cover that area, and it makes it safe for the horses, and they do just great. So just a little tip. I think in a couple of my videos, I actually have one video, I think, where he's actually doing it, so you can actually watch it and see it and see how he does it. I'm not sure the name of it. You'll have to kind of scroll back. The other thing too is, and I'm going to do a little plug right now, but my book, A Step-by-Step Guide to Starting and Running a Successful Horseboarding Business. If you don't have this book and you're looking to run a boarding stable, I encourage you to check it out. I wrote it like 4 years ago, and it's everything about horseboarding. There's pictures in there. There's a picture of him in there putting manure on ice. It really is just a really common sense book about doing everything efficiently on the farm, because your job's going to get really long and it's going to be tiresome, especially in the cold weather. So if you're dealing with stuff like this, or any kind of boarding issues, or you want to build, please check out my book. It's on Amazon. You can go to probarnmanagement.com and find it there and click on the link, or go straight to Amazon. It's also on Barnes & Noble. And I answer a lot of questions in here. It's a big book, and I wrote it to help you because I don't want you to have to go through the things that I went through, my husband and I went through. So I hope that helps on that. now I just wanted to answer a few questions that were asked. One of them was, and so this isn't about wintertime, it's just general questions. One of them was, do we have private paddocks for people that want individual turnout, and do we charge? And yes, we do. We do have private paddocks for horses that are injured. Sometimes we'll have someone who shows in the summer and wants a private turnout, and we do charge, um, you know, for years it's always been $10 a week in the summertime, $15 in the winter, because we usually have to heat the water for that, so they don't have frozen water. And I've never really raised it, but usually $10 a week per horse. So if there's two horses together, a private paddock, they're going to each pay that because it's extra work. No matter what, it's extra work. So yes, we do charge for that. Another person asked me about rat and mice control in your barn, and do we use poison, mouse traps, cats? So we don't use poison, but we do have cats, barn cats. There are babies, and one does really good at mousing. The other two pretty much don't. But my husband does have mouse traps in some of the tack rooms in certain areas. And, you know, mice are part of farms. I think the best thing you can do is keep your barn as clean as possible. One of the things I'm extremely, I guess I'm pretty strict about, but we have to be so we don't have a major mice problem in the tack rooms and areas, is I don't allow any kind of treats in the tack room unless it's in a sealed container, and definitely nothing that is perishable. So if it's apples or carrots, they can't be in the tack room. They have to be in our refrigerator. If it's any kind of horse treats, you can't just put the plastic bag in the tack room because mice will eat through anything. They'll eat through grain bags. They'll eat through salt blocks that have plastic on them. So anything that can be eaten by a mouse, it needs to be in a sealed hard plastic container so the mice cannot get to it. And we check our tack rooms. We have 3 tack rooms. We check them, make sure they're clean, make sure there isn't any of that. And if there is, then I will either call the client or I'll send an email, just give them a picture and say, this is what we have here. I'll take their stuff and put it in the lounge, and I'll say, you need to have a container for it. I'm real strict about it, but it's the best way to keep mice out. And you're going to know right away if you have a problem, because obviously you're going to see mice droppings. But through the years, we've had mice chew through pads and when they're nesting. And so I'm very strict about it. And you get people in the habit of doing the same thing, and it works. As far as rats, we have not, I don't think we ever had a rat problem here in our barn, so I can't answer that. I guess I would talk to a rodent control person on that, because I can't answer that. We haven't had a problem with rats, we just have mice. So sorry about that, but that's how we do that. And then I got a question from someone who has been watching these, but is a boarder, not a barn manager. And she asked, what do you do in a barn when you can't speak to the barn manager? They refuse to talk about stuff or to fix things. And, you know, honestly, that's such a generalized question. It's really hard to answer it without knowing more of the detail. But, you know, you've got your barn owner, you've got your barn manager, and sometimes they're together, like I would be the barn owner and the barn manager. But if they're separate, okay, now you've got that, and then you've got your boarder, and it ultimately depends on how the barn owner is going to run her business. So if I was not running our barn anymore and I hired someone, if there was a problem where between clients and the barn manager, and it seemed to be an ongoing problem, then I would think to myself, okay, maybe I need to see what's going on here. Maybe my barn manager, I need to talk to her about how she talks to the clients, or could it be that the clients are difficult? I can't answer that question, but if you're having trouble talking to the barn manager, then I would suggest probably, seeing if you could reach out to the barn owner. I can't, you didn't tell me your specific issues, so I can't answer any of that. If you have more questions about that, please write it in. But, it's really important to understand that, communication is the key to any successful business. And boy, if the communication isn't there, it is going to go downhill fast. It doesn't mean that everything I say to a client is something they're going to like. There are times that I have to say no to stuff and say, we just don't do that here. And then they have to decide if our barn is the right barn for them anymore. But no matter how it is, I want to make sure I address it. And, that's part of the job. It's not always fun. Sometimes it downright sucks, but you have to talk about this stuff. So I would try to talk to the barn manager. If she won't, I guess I would go to the barn owner and reach out to them and say, I'm trying here. Please help. You can only do as much as what the barn owner wants, what kind of barn she wants to have. If the barn owner also doesn't want to talk to you, then you might want to rethink your boarding stable and where you're keeping your horse. The truth is, if you don't have good communication, then what's going to happen if there's an emergency or something? So you might want to just rethink it all and try to talk to the barn owner. And if that doesn't work, then, maybe it might not be the right stable for you. Not every stable is right for everybody. Our barn is not right for everybody. And just like your barn may not be right for everybody. What you want to do, and what I try to convey and teach, is that the most important thing is to find the right people for your stable. There are so many boarding stables out there that are just truly wonderful, but they're finding the wrong clients. If you're a hunter-jumper barn and that's what you do, and that's what everybody does, then someone who does barrel racing might not fit in, and it might not be a good fit. So just think about all those things. It's just really common sense, but it really does create a solid business when you find your people, the people that are going to fit in your facility, and keep the communication open. As far as people watching this, if you're a barn owner, that's the most important thing. People, I used to board my horses long time ago in the 70s and 80s. And, the most important thing is I just want to know my horse is okay if I can't make it out there. And if I have a question, I don't want to wait 2 days to get a call back or a text. I just, that's just respect for each other. And I know what that's like. So I try to answer my boarders as quickly as possible when they reach out to me. Doesn't mean I take a phone call at 9 at night, but it does mean if they text me or email me, I'm going to answer them early in the morning, or during the day. I'll try to get back to them as soon as I can. You have to have some hours in there that are kind of off limits unless it's an emergency. But, because you have to have your family life too. You have to have your personal life. But I would just think about the communication, and if you're having trouble, kind of sit back and look and say, okay, what can I do better to help with that? Pretty common sense stuff, sometimes hard to do. And sometimes we don't want to talk and we don't want to answer stuff because we're human, and we know what's coming down, especially if you can see the storm clouds brewing and maybe something, it's going to be an unpleasant conversation. But you know what? It's part of business ownership. It's part of becoming a barn owner of any sort. It's just part of life. So if you're going to do it, try to do it the best you can in a way that respects them and is honoring. So I hope that answers your questions. I think that's all I had for questions right there. I'll try to get these out. I don't know if I'll get one once a week, but probably a couple times a month. And I just want to wish you the very best. If you're looking for a book, please check out my books on Amazon. I have several on barn management, also some women's books on there about being a businesswoman and running a barn, a daily devotional, to encourage you, and it's faith-based. And I just want to wish you the very best in your horse business. And thank you for joining us. And please check out probarnmanagement.com. Follow us on Facebook. And we will see you. Oh, and if you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe. Thank you very much. And we will see you soon. Thank you.